This is my mom, Maida. When I asked her about her favorite song, she shot back the quickest email reply. Shirley Bassey, my favorite singer, and here's the song, I Am What I Am. Her version of the song from the musical La Cage aux Folles. Song continues with something like, I am my own special creation, and I couldn't help but laugh out loud reading that email, thinking that's exactly my mother. She's unique, resilient, passionate, and still somewhat of an enigma to me. Thinking about the Embrace project and its purpose, this interview is my continuous desire to understand her a little bit better. She's currently in Croatia, and I spoke to her from New York City. All right,
All
here we
right.
go. Hello.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Hi.
So, welcome to my little conversation. I'm glad that we are able to do this. Obviously, it's very strange for us to be doing it in English, but you and I converse in chicken English all the time. So what I realize is that when we speak, we mostly speak about, events that are happening, science, things that you're doing, things that I'm doing, how's that affecting our lives. But I feel like it dawned on me that I want to know more about your life and like when you were growing up, and there's curiosity about how you got to where you are and how you got to be as fairly content as I could say from my perspective and from people that interact with you. You seem to be very content with your life. So I want to start with a question about you running away with the circus at 5 years old. Now, I want to know if this is a story that was told to you or you remember it. And if so, what's the reason? Can you tell me what prompted this running away?
Wow. Okay. I do remember the story. I went through the story completely, and I still have some traces somewhere in the back. There was a girl on trapeze, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right word?
Mm-hmm.
And she was absolutely sensational. And I remember being completely overwhelmed with the sensation that little thing on the trapeze, was basically dancing. And the whole world of circus, even today, has a great impact on me. So yes, I wanted to be. I didn't belong. I never belonged to the regular reality of what was kind of brought up with.
Well,
Or
right, but at 5 years old, I'm sure that you were not cognizant of not belonging, but perhaps you were yearning for a little bit more of an alternative experience than what you were living.
if I remember correctly, and I think I do, even at that time, I was very cognizant. I was very aware of my surroundings. I was very aware of what is my focus. And I was always interested in other things,
When
not
you
the
say other
world.
things, what do you mean by other things?
Yeah, not the world that was there, but the other worlds, the worlds that are. I remember I was maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 years old when I saw the death carriage, the cemetery
Like a
was very close by.
funeral procession?
Not a procession, just the carriage, with the horses, the black and with the gold and stuff. And I was absolutely obsessed with that.
Mm.
And it was very, very, you see how those things came out just out of the blue. And it was like, what in the world is this? I didn't understand, and I was trying to find out. And when I finally find out what that is, it was like, I want to know more.
And
But
was it about death? You wanted to know more about death,
no,
or
no, it was about the feeling. It was not about death. I didn't understand the concept. If I'm if I'm honest, even I don't understand it today. But what was the feeling that brought from me? The feeling that was already in me was like, wow, I want to know
Mm.
more.
So, when I was thinking about questions and how to objectively ask you things that we don't talk about, one of the things that was a running theme in your life is a transition, transformation, and transcript, like sort of like moving around. So lived, you were born in Kosovo, you lived in Bosnia, you moved to
Herzegovina.
Herzegovina, Bosnia and Herzegovina, you moved to Croatia, you left and lived in Germany, and then you moved to the States. And, on top of all that, you have also started your life with interest in studying acting. You went into law school and was doing, you studied law, then you became an actress and a puppeteer, then you were doing law, and then you came to become a homeopathic doctor, and sort of at the final, or this stage in your life, in the last, what, 15 years? Is it 15?
Yeah.
It's about 15 years. So
I would say it's about 20 years.
maybe this trigger of visiting with the circus and like figuring out that you want to know more, how does this kind of, how has all that moving, which was, half of that was brought upon you, half of it was instigated by you. How did moving that was brought on to you by, our grandparents, how did that affect your life? And then obviously subsequently the move that you made, how do you think that has shaped you?
It shaped me dramatically because, I was 10 years old when we moved to Mostar, to Herzegovina. And my whole life was, basically based in Pristina, which is Kosovo. And I was happy there. I was happy child, with my friends and stuff, and doing things. And I had my world there. But moving to another city um, brought actually that sadness. That was a feeling of what do I supposed to do, and that sadness, stayed with me for a short period of time. But I remember the feeling.
Is it the sense of not belonging that was sad?
Yeah, I was, all of a sudden I didn't belong to the community, to my people. There was no
Hmm.
my people anymore.
But when you were mentioning about, you know, seeking elsewhere and kind of running away, I was thinking that you didn't even have a sense of belongingness where you were born.
But I love my people. You
Who?
always connect yourself, with my friends in Pristina.
Okay.
I love them. Even today we have some contacts. I'm in
Really?
yes, I'm in contact
Wow.
with my best friend at that time. In the beginning, I didn't want to speak because my speaking, actually caused many people to laugh.
Because there were two different languages
It's the
between
same
Kosovo
language
and
but different, different dialogue, different
different dialect.
dialect. Yes. So, and whenever I was talking, people were laughing like crazy. So I decided, no, I don't want to talk. So I didn't talk until, finally my professor, she was a professor at that time of Serbo-Croatian. She took me under her wing and she told me, you can actually surrender or you can actually start learning language. So I did. And I was so determined to learn the right words and the right pronunciation that finally, I was able to be on the stage on 14th of February, which is the day when Mostar was liberated, you know. And I was speaking, the poem, and it was so good. Even I will probably say that brought that feeling, that sensation of I can do anything.
Hmm.
I can do absolutely anything.
I have to digress for a second. When you said that you learned the language, I remember when we moved to the States and how uncomfortable I felt that the level of my English was not in the place that I
Mhm.
wanted to be. And I didn't want to be immediately scrutinized based upon my accent. And I think I remember working really hard that today when I speak English, people are usually like, well, for many years of like, oh, you have no accent. And it was like this, opportunity to not have that as the first line of judgment. So I could
Mhm.
totally relate to that. So there was a sense of power that you've experienced in that transition. So in ability to adapt and thrive, obviously, and how, and then obviously you had me, things were a little bit shifting, but again, like you were constantly on the move, you were like, what's the
Life did the job. Life was actually taking its turns. And whatever was happening, I was able to actually go along. I never said no, but uh, uh, when things are happening in life, there is no no space um, for a lot of thinking. You have to start, learn to make decisions along.
right, but I feel like this is, you're speaking from a perspective of today. I don't, I remember as a child you had bouts of depression and kind of like not really great space, and I feel like you did not have that power, you were not executing that power. I think that you were very lost. So if you could take yourself back into that space and that perspective, like what was that like?
It was a sensation of losing freedom, and I didn't know how to get it back.
Freedom from what?
Freedom of choice, freedom of, moving along with life, freedom of um, opening up to things that mattered to me at that particular time. Getting married at early age and having you at early age, where I was obviously not completely mature.
Equipped. Right.
Yeah,
Hmm.
mature. Yeah, mature to deal with all of that. Took me a lot of time to actually understand why. It's not that I didn't have choice. Every single one has a choice, but having you took me into a direction of something that was a role, being a mother, especially, after a short period of time, being a single mother was kind of, lost in space feeling. What should I do? How can I pursue my life, not dreams, my life, and being a mother, because I was in love with you. I was
Mm.
totally in love with you. I was totally, lost in that love and connection to you. But it's also having your life, and having or being a mother in a regular sense of that word.
Right. So not being first, like not being able to balance being a mom and being
Exactly.
fully present, but also giving yourself space and
Exactly.
opportunity to thrive and pursue the things of that were interesting to you.
Sure.
So what finally triggered the the first leave, like the immigration into Germany? Like what was the final straw in your thought process that was like, I gotta go?
First off, it was the feeling of lost cause. I
Oh,
couldn't
you
do
you
it
saw
anymore.
that it was not belonging anymore, what was happening in.
War was happening. It was, horrifying on all levels. And I was trying. I actually founded two organizations, one for protection of human rights. I organized DOME, which is home,
Hmm.
for people, for people in Croatia, and protection of human rights.
So okay, when you felt like you hit a wall, and you tried sort of providing resistance in a very constructive way, by like not by being like F you, but being
No,
like,
no.
hi, here's a space, here's a dialogue, this is what three people come together. So why walk away from that? Like why?
Because it was pointless. It didn't go anywhere. Even politicians. I was a member of ultra left people, you know, the organization,
The Bernies of the world?
the Bernies, yes, the Bernies, you know, but didn't work out. You know, it was intellectual, you know, high intellectuals, you know, from Croatia, but didn't work out. And after just, you know, understanding that it's pointless to stay and fight, Slavko, you know, my future husband at that time, you know, had a situation, you know, that he had offer
Had a
in
working
Germany.
opportunity.
Yes, working opportunity, and he just went to Germany, and you know, little by little, the whole situation actually turned out to go into that direction. And I didn't find the connection to Germany.
So you were there for 3 years, right?
3.5.
And I feel like that, if from my perspective, when I look, which is very limiting, I feel like that, you know, you had a lot of hardships and like moving and, you know, single parenting, and, you know, we lived with our grandparents. There's all kinds of stuff, and the collapse of the system that we all, you know, believed in, etc. But I feel like Germany really broke you in some way.
Yes, I
There was
broke
a
my
lot of
arm.
visual, yeah, there was a lot of
Literally, I broke my
yeah,
arm.
there were a lot of physical manifestations,
Yes.
but I think the Germany broke you.
Mm.
In what way? Like what?
Uh, Germany, first off, I left you in Croatia, you know, and I was going back and forth all the time. So I was spending all my time and money and thinking, you know, about you being there. I was, you know, uh, well, you know, after, I don't know, a year and a half, we finally got the papers, and we didn't, you know, have I could ask for asylum, you know, but I didn't want to do that because, you know,
Then it
I
would prevent you
would be
from.
stuck. Yes, that will prevent me from going anywhere. So I stayed there, and we finally, you know, thanks to him, got the papers, and I was able to actually travel. But simply didn't work for me. Didn't work for me, you know. And since I was struggling, you know, with you being in Croatia, somehow life brought us, you know, to that position to apply for visa.
Got it. So it was like transitory, but it did it a lot. I feel like Germany, that visit in Germany, not only broke you, but it also kind of set you back, because it took you a long time when we did move to United States to sort of dig yourself out and find your path and kind of get to a
I gave
place.
two of you, you know, going to the United States, I kind of gave two of you chance to settle first.
Right.
Yeah, I was there for both of you because he didn't speak English, and it was like, you know, pretty much going back and forth. He needed to learn, and you didn't want to go, of course, as you
Right.
remember.
Right.
So you were pretty tough on all those things. So I actually gave two of you space to settle down first.
So, you know, these were the sort of the transitory experiences of your life. So moving as a child, you know, and then moving as a new mother, and then moving right at my teenage years, and then, you know, moving probably in the shift of your, you know, what's supposed to be like the most, I think, productive, you know, exciting life. You know, you were only 30 something years old when we moved to United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, you know, and then if I look at, so there was all that transition, but then, you know, in your professional life, you wanted to go into theater, you went and studied law, you practiced a little bit of theater, you were a puppeteer and you were an actress. And then, you know, none of these things you did, social, what do you call it? You were politically
Civil
active, so
rights
you,
things.
exactly, you did your civic duty, and
Yeah.
you know, you rose to those ranks. So there's just so many. You were so, it seems as though all of those things were really seamless in terms of transition. Was that the case, or was it?
Pretty much.
It was. So you were able
Yeah,
to
pretty
morph
much.
from one position into another. What
Pretty
do you
much.
think? I can't. How do you? How is that possible? And like, why is it that it was so seamless and easy?
Um, life is always going into circles, you know. Once when you actually hit that thing, when you finish one cycle or circle in life,
Hmm.
you know, it simply takes you into another one. So you have that chance either to accept it or stay in that circle.
Or resist it, right, right, right. So, but you,
Yeah.
so you feel you can say from, even in the times earlier in your life that you consciously saw how the shifts were happening and you were just going from one to
Mhm,
the
mhm,
other.
mhm. And you know, I was pretty much aware it was a kind of sort of a 6 year period, you know, where I would actually stay in certain, you know, in certain cycle.
Mm,
I was having interests, you know, and whether professionally, you know, being completely involved, you know, as a profession. But I would stay even later on and trying to actually pursue certain things because as a profession, it was very much limited. It was very much, you know, narrow for me.
mm,
So after I finished, let's say, with the puppet theater and with that part, you know, I actually went into producing, writing texts, and directing, and you know, and doing all sorts of stuff just to see the whole picture of it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it was like pretty much, you know, around 6 years, you know, and
So,
whenever I stayed in certain cycle, it was around that period, and I kind of knew, I recognized that feeling inside of me, you know, okay, it's time to move on.
how does law fit into that? Just because I've never asked that question. Why did you study law? Why did you work there? Like, how does that fall into?
After graduated from high school, I was, of course, in love, and I was
The
very much
love child.
exactly. So I was interested into acting, and I wanted to actually go to Belgrade to
To
the
the other part of
academy.
Yugoslavia, to the drama
Yes,
academy.
yes, drama academy. And since my at that time boyfriend, you know, love of my life at that time, you know, wasn't ready to let me go. Of course, you know, it was like blackmailing and stuff like that, gently, gently. I didn't know what to do. So one part of me was definitely interested, even at that time, of changing the world. And law was kind of a tool.
Mm.
I said, why not? I can do that. I'm not a person that can really, you know, sit and study a lot, but somehow law taught me, you know, to orchestrate my mind, you know, to actually start learning things in a different way. I went through
But
high school without even learning anything, you know, the regular way, trying
right.
to remember. I was just picking up things, and you know, and by common sense, you know, I came to you know with a good answer.
I want to know, like, you are right now, if you have to present yourself to somebody, you would say that you're a homeopathic naturopathic doctor. No? Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I hold
Okay.
a bachelor and doctor's degree in naturopathy. I specialized in homeopathy, and I am certified traditional naturopath.
So this is the certification is you can't, is that something that you can't operate without of, like, because you have a doctorate in natural.
As far as I know, you know, in the United States, there is no law that specifies, you know, that you have to have that. But I took that because it was for me important to
Mm.
to make that, you know, a final touch, and to have that, you know, to have that certification, just to be sure that okay, I'm okay. And you know, there is a little part of me, you know, of lawyer still left, that I don't want to go against, you know, certain rules if I don't have to. And
Mm.
it's much easier to practice when you are certified, of course.
I I'm curious. You had mentioned in our conversation that it was boredom that prompted you to go back to school. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I remember you having certain, like, physical situations that you were dealing with that I think maybe instigated that, or like triggered your curiosity because you were not satisfied with the answers that you were getting from the medical sciences. So you were very curious, and I thought that it started from that realm, not necessarily out of boredom. Like what?
I didn't know anything about it. And I was, pretty much clueless, even when I was, if I believe you remember my headaches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my headaches were absolutely excruciating. And I went through every single possible thing, that I can possibly go through, but nothing helped. And of course, in time, you start feeling those aches and pains, within the body. And I was trying to understand what was going on because, as a healthy person, you don't even think about it. But when you start having those experiences, and plus, going through all those emotional things, you start kind of getting glimpses about, what is actually happening inside of me, what is actually happening with me, or how does that work? What
So what?
is
Mhm. No, I was
what is
gonna.
behind all of that, and what is going on? I wanted answers for myself, because whatever I go and ask somebody else, that will give me their story and their idea of what might be, you know but learning about myself was something that, because I didn't know what was that behind those two eyes that was creating all that sensations that I was going through.
What did you find that captivated you? That sort of kept you on that path in homeopathy and naturopathy. Like, what did you find so intriguing and interesting that made sense to you that you took that path?
um, the regular approach to understanding life through science is okay up to the moment when you start actually asking questions that science does not have answers to.
Can you
Life,
elaborate?
death, yeah, life and death situation. What is sickness? What is actually happening to me? Who am I? How can I actually make change if I need? What do I need to do with all of this? And stuff like that. A crucial, fundamental questions. Spirituality and religion also, they don't have answers. They have some stories. So going into a natural way of healing, which is, something that was completely new to me. At that time, I was working at GNC in Demarest. And it was just, like everything else that happened in my life. I was just, bored to death, watching things around. And my eye simply laid on a magazine, and it was like Doctor of Natural Health. And something just resonated at that moment. And I started reading, and I read more, and I start, actually pursuing all of that, and exploring. And finally I contacted them, and I said, I want to start. But the more I start exploring all of that, the more questions I had. And of course, after the bachelor's, I entered that doctor's part, and in I had homeopathy, in I think on third or fourth year, and during the doctor's part. But with the regular knowledge that I had at that particular time about how science works, homeopathy was totally out of whack, totally, unknown. You are giving something that does not have anything in it, and you got such results.
You're studying homeopathy, you're learning, I'm assuming you're experimenting. I remember you had all those little vials. You were trying things on yourself all the time,
Yeah,
right? And I
yeah.
remember, I think the the beautiful thing about it is, where at least what I gather is that, you know, you would never have an adverse reaction, even if you were to fuck up and give somebody a wrong remedy, correct? Like it's never going to
It
have,
wouldn't work. It wouldn't do anything.
right. So, but you would not, you know, there are no side effects or anything that happens with the homeopathic
Exactly.
remedy the way that you would when you take a Xanax
No
or
side effects.
prescribed
Yeah.
thing that comes, you know, it might cause death or anal
Yeah.
leakage or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to
With,
throw that in there.
I mean, to be able to understand how homeopathy works, I had to actually explore the quantum physics and mechanics world.
So that's actually what I want to do. So I wanted for you to explain in very concise and understandable way for people that don't necessarily know about homeopathy. What is that? What is homeopathy?
Homeopathy, according to what we know so far, is basically similar, cure similar. So the opposite way of how regular medication or a regular medicine is approaching sickness.
So it's like, you know, the hair of the dog almost.
Yes.
For all intents and purposes, that's only one part of what you do. It is a baseline that allowed you to, you know, you to get education, to be able to be recognized as a working professional, to have credibility, right? So, you know, getting the education and getting your doctorate and getting the certification, you know, all the tools of, as you mentioned, as your lawyer self, you needed those things to have credibility, to be able to practice as a doctor. But your practice, you know, as much as I know in the conversations that we have, and I don't fully understand it, which is the reason I'm asking the question, is has evolved. And so, you know, when people ask me what you're doing, I have a very hard time, you know, I can't zero in and say you're a homeopathic doctor, because that's not all that you do. You don't just prescribe this remedies. You obviously, also part of homeopathy is that you never look at a symptom. You look at holistic body and how the whole body and what's out of sync and out of
And the
balance, that
vital force.
and the vital force, right? How do you, if somebody was to, you know, you're having a cocktail at a bar and they say, you know, typical New York question, what do? What would you say?
I am. Because, you know, yeah.
Can you say that again?
Well, you know, to make long story short, you know, I can say that I'm a healer, but not a healer in a regular sense of healing. The healing part is actually based on that vital force thing that is totally unknown to us. So I'm not a healer. I'm actually activator of that vital force that heals itself. For example, you have a problem.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Houston. Houston, you have a problem.
Do
Okay, so,
I? Do I ever?
and you are basically, you know, coming to me. I don't ask, I listen to your problem, you know, I listen to all those ailments that you have. I listen to that story, but I'm not interested in your story. I'm interested in state of your being. Why the state of your being is not functioning. But behind all of that is that force, is that life that we basically don't even touch through our life. We don't understand, you know, its meaning. We don't understand what is there for. We don't understand what is that all about. We have just labels. Sometimes we call that consciousness, sometimes we call that awareness, sometimes we call that God, sometimes, you know, depends on the situation. But we don't know nothing about it. We just simply don't know anything about it until we hit that tipping point, so to say. We hit that wall. We don't know what to do. What is life all about? How can we actually proceed what is in front of us? And that is the healer. The, you know, the pill, the doctor, the knowledge, and all that stuff, those are just band-aids on a bigger thing that is growing, and it's basically calling. That thing is constantly calling to pay attention, but we don't recognize that. We are too busy doing. But as you know, and you heard me, you know, saying so many times, we're not human doings, we're human beings. We. So when you look at your life, you look at as an observer. And if you are observing things that are happening to you, you can actually get to that point of that self-awareness. You know, what in the world I'm doing in order for me to have that feedback. So the picture of healing the sickness is not my approach. I'm going into the center of that being, which does not have a sickness at all and does not have health at all. It's that oneness, does not have that polarity at all. It's a composition of life that goes as a whole. It's like when you follow your breath, that breath is actually the most important thing, but not breath as we think we know it, but the breath as a connection to life.
If somebody who's a healer, which is how you have defined yourself in a certain way, I would assume that your desire would be or to help people find their path. But in order to do that, you have to teach them something or trigger that life force. So like I'm asking you, how do you do that?
It presents itself, Mia. It's very difficult to explain because every single person is different. On an open field, so to say, you know, in working with people, recognizing that thing is that ability that I just simply open up through time, or looking at that source of suffering. It's individual thing. So there is no classical approach to healing process. It's, you can't explain. But the healer that is inside of every single one of us, which also the body has the ability to heal itself, it's absolutely the best possible laboratory that we have. You know, we as users of this human form, we don't understand. We have the knowledge that we downloaded from the outside, but we don't have the deeper understanding of what is this, how this actually functions. How do we are not this form, but we use this form, and we don't have a clue how this form functions. We don't have a clue what is going on inside of that. So in order for me to actually trigger that, I have to have that empty space inside of me, so that calm water, if you like, so that the expression of that can come through me to somebody who is on the other side.
Why do people come to you?
To know themselves. They come to me to understand themselves. They come to me to teach themselves how to function in life, to take a full responsibility of what is going on within their physical field. The physical ailment, if they come with a physical ailment, if that is the starting point, you know, basically we almost immediately start with that part, opening up the deeper understanding of what is happening now, what is happening within them now, what is it that is there. So immediately, I use every single ailment, every single life situation to actually turn back and immediately find out what is going on. You have to get to know yourself in order to understand what I'm talking about. So with the mind, yes, definitely, you cannot approach this thing. But people who have that sensation inside of them that the mind is not the tool that can explain many things, including life, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
Like what inspires you and what do you think is your purpose during this lifetime?
I don't have a purpose.
Okay.
There is no such thing as purpose. I went through so many goals and accomplishments and stuff, and I came to the conclusion that there is no purpose in life. Life should be lived the way it is. And if you want to do it, this way or that way, there is no reason to have a purpose, to limit your life with a purpose or struggling to find a purpose. But if you just allow yourself to be here and now as you are, then you will see that every single moment is actually giving you that chance to go through that life without, or go with life without having a purpose or without limiting your life with a purpose.
What gives you reasons to wake up every single day and
It's a natural process. I don't need to have a reason to wake up in the morning. I don't need to have a specific thing that will hit me to the roof because I'm happy. The constant way of functioning is like you are waking up, you are going to sleep, you are doing things, or you don't.
mm.
So it's a kind of giving myself a freedom to go without purpose and without trying to figure it out what in the world will make me feel happy if I wake up in the morning. It's just the freedom that is inspiring me to wake up every single morning.
So can I then summarize that you were walking through life and trying different things and looking for solutions by trying out different things that would occupy your mind, and in terms of place of existence, in terms of occupation, professional occupation, and you landed in the space of homeopathy, which then pushed through to the I am principle. And now you are, I guess, neither here nor there. So there's no.
I am here. I'm always here.
Mhm.
I'm always here. Complete, whole, without trying to do anything extra. Most of the time, my mind is very quiet. It does not need to be involved in, let's say, this conversation with you. It does not need to tell me what I'm going to say to you. I'm answering questions the way how they are ready to be answered by that state of me being here and now.
Right. Do you get ideas?
I don't get ideas. I get awareness.
What is that? Can you
Just
speak more
become
about that?
aware of certain things in my system, and especially when I'm writing things, I just give myself chance to express myself. Sometimes it's kind of silly talk, it's a kind of self-talk with yourself, and through that I simply open up that sensation of awareness. This is what I need to go through, this is what is ready inside of me to go through.
How did you get to the notion of I am? Because that's an idea, that's a concept.
It is a concept, but it's also a much deeper feeling.
Of
It's a
course it
feeling,
is. Yeah.
yeah, it's a feeling that basically through that feeling came that notion of I amness. Through the feeling of, and I was sitting in Demarest, in my living room, and I was just, drinking my coffee, or I don't know what I was doing at that time, but it was a moment, this is it. I am here. I am here and now. I really do am here and now. I didn't know how to explain it at that moment, but it was that self-awareness of
Mm-hmm.
it happened.
What's the explanation of I am?
Personal experience. That's what it is. I am here and now, and what I expect from you here and now. Do I expect anything? What should I do with that? Because that moment, from this moment to the next moment, I amness goes always. Mind should not and cannot, but the awareness and the life and every single moment is connected through that I amness.
Obviously, to get to a place of I am, how does an individual get to a place of I am?
You are never out of that place.
How does an individual then become aware of the I am consistent
Um,
presence?
it's basically the moment when the mind stops. Sometimes it's just, those are just some glimpses of that.
Mm-hmm.
And you just become aware of that there is something there happening, but you cannot even, you cannot touch it, you cannot taste it, you cannot even explain it. It's there, you are aware of it, but and those are moments when the mind stops, not because the mind does not have anything to say, but there is something more present than the mind and the processing of information and comparisons and judgments and thinkings and stuff like that.
So I mean, the path that I'm taking, and the way that I'm hearing what you're saying is that people talk about meditation and quieting the mind as a tool to experience the oneness and the I amness because of the quieting of the continuous buzz. So that would be a correlation in some way.
Yeah, in some way, but at the same time, you will see after a while that the meditation will not take you anywhere. You will have to drop the tool of meditating, the purpose of meditation, in order to simply be.
Right. Actually, that's a really great point because I was listening to a guy named Sam Harris, and what he was talking about is ultimately there should be no space, there should be no separateness from that state of the quiet, the responsive. You're constantly in that state. You're still existing, you still have elements in
Exactly.
life and
Everything is there.
weather and whatever. It's just that
Mhm,
you are able to
mhm.
navigate life from this space of non-reactive, and it's always there. You don't have to sit in it. You could
Exactly.
it's the way
Exactly.
of
You have to come to
existing.
that point of recognizing that thing, you don't need to look for it.
Hmm.
It's always there. But the reason we cannot actually get there is because we are constantly processing things. The mind is very active, maybe 90%, if not more, our personal power is going, to the mind,
Of
and to
course.
hold up that picture of sub-reality, of illusion, of what we should do with life, the
Right.
purpose of life and everything. After I became aware of that I amness, it was not a thought, it was just a sensation
Hmm.
of
Hmm. Right.
something. you know I was trying to read Ramana Maharshi, books, and Nisargadatta, and Muji, and all sorts of stuff. But there is no explanation for that. Even they can relate, they can give you all sorts of, beautiful explanations. There is no way unless you really deeply experience that.
Right. And I mean, I think that's the whole purpose of it. Everybody's trying to, the Mujis, the Buddhas, all the spiritual teachers are trying to put words to something to help you get there. And that's why I was asking, because you are not alone in this experience. Many
Of course
people
not.
have experienced this and they've come about it in a different way.
In a
And
unique way, in their way.
exactly. Yes. But by finding different tools to help him along, seeking, they all found something that feels like the right way. You found homeopathy, you found transcendental meditation, things
Exactly.
like that, little tools,
Exactly.
and then eventually carve your own paths. Same thing with Buddha, but in a way that he was just sitting there. He was just sitting there for some time and
Yes.
some time. And then eventually, he had the liberty and freedom to do so because he came from money, that guy. But he did. But the rest
Yeah.
of us
Yeah.
mortals are trying to, if you are figuring out how to lessen the impact of that noise, you are seeking help, you're seeking answers. So if we were to, you know ask for like a guidance, for the lack of the better word, is there anything that you would want to impart, a simple thing, to another human being that you don't know, that would be something that they would want them to know based on what you've done thus far and how you live your life?
Know thyself. That's the only thing that matters in this life. Know thyself. Because without that knowledge, everything else is pointless. You can you can have a PhD in astrophysics. You can have, I don't know, doctor's degree. You can be a rocket scientist. You can be whatever, but without self-knowledge, everything is pointless.